Hello, everyone. It's Art Russell here at Think Twice on YouTube and thinktwice.me at wordpress.com. In this video, I'm going to share information that I hope will be useful toward direct recognition of your essential nature beyond name and form. So that means beyond the person. It was inspired by a short passage in a book entitled All There Is by Tony Parsons, who's a noted speaker and author on the subject of non-duality. From what I can understand through the book, I believe he expressed these words during a meeting or a seminar with seekers, those people, beings who wanted to have a deeper understanding of their essential nature. So here's the short passage. It went room, no room, room, no room, room, no room. Now that may sound odd, but what Mr. Parsons was expressing was that objects, persons, and in this case, a room, had no existence independent of the mind in which the room was perceived. Now this goes against all of our conditioning. We're conditioned to believe that this is a solid, relatively long-lasting person existing in a real solid environment. Now, if that seems odd to even share this with you, what I'd like us to do is to contemplate the nature of our nighttime dreams. Now, during the dreams, they certainly seem real. Our perspective definitely seems real, and events, circumstances, objects seem solid, or they're in motion. There's talking, there's listening, there's all these things. And yet in the morning, when most beings believe they get up as the person, and this is where there's one of the erroneous perspectives, when it actually is that we switch to the waking state. But in the morning, we realize, there's the realization, well, all those events, all those objects that we saw had to be rendered by the mind. They were a fabrication of the mind. Now, let's also take a look at how movies are made that we go to, whether at a cinema or watching them at home on our televisions. We understand that there's a normal rate of speed, and from what I can gather, it's 24 frames per second. That gives this continuous, this flow that seems natural of how we process events taking place in movies. And I would suggest that that's deeply connected to our innate processing speed. We know this because, let's say we're watching a movie that has a car chase scene, and if the producers have sped up those frames, it seems wonky to us. It seems just out of place. We know this just innately. But we do realize that it's individual frames that are connected and then played at a certain speed. That's what's happening here with perception, giving these forms life in the room that Mr. Parsons was describing, or a room, similar to a room. Room, no room. Room, no room. Our true nature is the gap, consciousness that knows the frames. Now, I made an illustration here that I hope will help point to the difference between universal consciousness and assumed personal consciousness. We've been conditioned to believe that the consciousness that flows through this, in Bible terms, it would be a body temple. We can just call it a person. We assume it's personal. We assume it began at birth, and therefore there's a lot of fear that ends at death. So let's go into the illustration here now. Now, it's not the greatest, but I hope it will be useful. So in this illustration, the circle is meant to represent, right in the center here would be consciousness. It's really all made of consciousness. But in these, they're not really hang men and hang women, but individual perspectives. This would have name and form, same for this, same for this, same for this, and of course they'd all be looking very different as we notice about us in society. But what I'm saying is the consciousness that is assumed to rise in the brain is actually universal consciousness, the center. Now, you might doubt that that can be the case, but it feels in a nighttime dream as though we're living through that perspective, and we know that we weren't the cowboy or the astronaut or whatever character was playing out in a nighttime dream, but it felt like we were. Same rules apply to this. Our true nature is non-local. We can't point to where it is, where it begins and where it ends, but we know that consciousness must be here because experiences cannot take place without it. So, now you might be asking, what are some of the benefits associated with this? As I mentioned about fear, so if we understand that consciousness did not begin with the appearance of the body, that does strongly imply that it doesn't end with the death of the body-mind. A body-mind that is put in motion in much the same way as a movie character is, or a character in a nighttime dream. So that should eliminate a lot of fear there if we really contemplate this deeply. Also, while our character is still in the dream of life, situations should take on a lighter feel to them. Instead of having all that egoic presence of related to pride or I gotta be right or shame or guilt, if something has occurred through this character, there won't be the same degree of punishing ourselves. So our life experiences do take on a lighter perspective, which is good. We more easily go through or pass through the apparent ups and downs of life. Now, I'd also like to share a quote from the book entitled I Am That by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Seekers went to him many years ago in India, desiring to have a deeper understanding of their true nature. I wish I could show this close up, but it doesn't really show great on camera, so I'll read it. And it says, "The real does not die, the unreal never lived." So the real would be consciousness, and the unreal would be the projections of the mind. In an esoteric book I once read, it was referred to as infinite living mind. In this video, I'm calling it infinite living projector, or the infinite living projector. God, the unified field, that type of thing. All right. This is also referred to in a Bible passage from Acts chapter 17, or chapter 17, verse 28. And many of you will be familiar with it. For in him we live and move and have our being. In him, consciousness or awareness We really can't name it because we cannot make an object of it. It's actually neither subject nor object because those are polar opposites. It's prior to. It's the oneness, the unified field out of which everything arises. I hope this video has been useful to you in some way today. If you've enjoyed it, I invite you to subscribe to my channel or click a like. I offer free information through my articles at thinktwice.me, which is my blog, and also through my book entitled This Taste of Flesh and Bones, which is available through Amazon. Bye for now. We'll talk again soon.